Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to Higher Moment Mastermind. I'm Shira Litzar, and happy to join you this morning along with Vern Schellinger. And I'm not sure if Alki will be joining us, but hopefully he will. And so for those of you who are new to our group, I see a couple new faces. We are an open Q&A for all job seekers. We answer any of your questions that you might have about your job search, from resumes to networking to interviewing, salary, all that fun stuff. So I'm a career coach and a recruiter. Vern is a former HR executive and a career coach, and we are just delighted to see you here this morning. All right, so with that, who would like to kick us off with a question? Yes, Lisa.
Hi. I've been laid off for the first time in my life.
Mm,
Um, Lost contract, that kind of thing.
mhm.
And it took me a while to think to do this, but I searched myself online, and there are some things that may not be working in my favor. And my question is, do you know of, I've in trying to figure out how to solve this and in sending in opt-out forms to various sites, I've come to realize that there are data cleanup sites
Yeah,
or businesses.
yeah.
Do you know about them? Are there some that are better than others? I'm not looking for a referral
Yeah,
necessarily.
I have heard of them, and I don't know exactly what they're called, although I think some might call them reputation management companies, something like
Yeah,
that.
I've seen that term now that you
Yeah,
say it.
and I honestly I don't know of any particular one, and I don't know if there are better ones or worse ones. That hasn't been my experience. Oh, by the way, Doris is popping on right now, so I'm actually, Lisa, if that's okay, can we hold that? Because
Come
I
back
think
to me. Yep,
unless,
that'd be
yeah, so
great.
we can
Mhm.
come back to that in
No
case anyone
problem.
else has some ideas. But as soon as here we have Doris. Hi, Doris. Good morning.
Morning. Uh,
Actually, I was sharing with some of the group right before you got on a little bit about what you're about to be sharing, but we actually have new people jumping on as you're coming on. So
okay.
I'm going to give you the floor. So let me just reintroduce Doris. So Doris has been a longtime colleague of mine. Big hugs to you. And Doris has a communications company and agency, and she has a gig opportunity for any of you who are looking for a little bit of side income that has to do with the Frederick County government, Maryland County.
I'll
Frederick, Maryland
explain.
County government, and she'll go ahead and explain the opportunity.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. You all are looking really good at this hour. Shira, thank you as always for this opportunity. I love Shira to pieces. She's a rock star in my book. She knows how to help people
Likewise.
and make it count. Okay, so here's the story. Over the past 10 years, I've been doing what's called disparity studies. And they are different counties. Like I just finished one for Montgomery County. And the premise of the study is to determine if women-owned, minority-owned businesses are getting business with the county because they have centers set up to reach out to small business, disadvantaged business, minority business. And every 5 years, they do this study and they hire companies from Georgia. That seems to be the place. And when these companies come from out of state come in to where we are, they always need a disadvantaged business enterprise, of which I'm considered one, and to perform a certain portion of their contract. The portion that I perform consists of doing anecdotal interviews, which means they will give us lists of businesses in their particular county. They will ask us to reach out to these businesses. We have a questionnaire, which you all would use to interview these business owners. Now, I have to tell you, and you will talk to the business owners and ask them, have you ever done business with Frederick County? Are you certified to do business with Frederick County? If you're not certified, well, why aren't you certified? And so it's their opportunity to reach out to businesses in Frederick County to kind of bring them on board and let them know what the opportunities are, and to make sure that those of us who may be marginalized in terms of getting big contracts have an opportunity to either be a prime on a contract, which means you run the contract, or to be a sub, on a contract, which is what I am. I'm not particularly interested in being a prime. There's a lot of work that's involved in that. Being a sub is fine. They take the heat for everything. I just do my job. And so I've done about 10 of these disparity studies over the years. And Frederick, my client, just reached out to me and said, Frederick wants a study done. So I said, bring it on. And then my team that I had just worked with, some of them had to move on to other opportunities. So I said, I need to rebuild my team. It starts June 1st. So I am looking for people who are interested in interviewing small businesses to find out what their story is, help them to tell their story. We will have to interview them, also record them. Most of my folks use Zoom, and I think Zoom has a feature that will transcribe for you. And at the end, we have to also submit a very short report on what your conversation was about. I ask if writing is not your strength, then you may not want to be a part of this. I'm not saying you've got to write War and Peace, or the next great novel, but I need professional documentation of what you did. The other thing, and I have to give you the downside, because for me, when I was actually doing them myself, I was like, oh man, you have to call a lot of people. And that's why we give you lists of business owners. If the person doesn't answer the phone, you document that on your sheet. If they say, I don't want to be a part of the study, you document that and you go on to the next person. So sometimes you might make, what do they say? You got to kiss a lot of frogs before you get to the prince or the princess. So in this case, you may have to make 5, 6, 7, 8 calls. I don't know. It just depends. And then you tell people you're working on this disparity study from Frederick County for small businesses. And would they speak with you and tell you what their experience is as a small business owner in Frederick County? I am paying $250 per completed interview. I have a project manager who will receive all of your material, your recording, your report, and they will upload it to the portal for our client. At the end, I pay at the end of the contract. In this case, it's a 2-month contract, but I just paid over $11,000 to just 2 people this past study. They gave me great work. The client is happy. I'm happy because they called me again. And I'd like for you all to be happy too, because see, I've been where you are. I used to anchor the news for Channel 7. And I actually thought I would probably die in the anchor chair. I was going to do my last newscast some 50 years later, and it didn't happen that way. In the middle of contract negotiations, they decided to stop negotiating, and that was the end. What was so terrible about it was that at that time, I was married to a very wealthy orthopedic surgeon who woke up one morning with a midlife crisis and decided that he wanted to run for president of Haiti. He was Haitian. And right about that time, and I was commuting between New York and DC because I was anchoring down here during the week and going back home on the weekend. Well, I have to tell you, it was devastating because of what he was doing, he stopped practicing medicine. And we had the lifestyle that people think, oh, if I have this lifestyle, I'll just have everything, the maids, the chauffeur, the $1 million home. And what I got left with at the end of this devastation was 3 children, 1 housekeeper, and 2 peacocks, and $100,000 worth of debt. Okay. And I thought I had no clue what I was going to do. There was a turning point for me in that regard because having had all of those losses, and then I thought I was having a heart attack on top of it. But it was a turning point for me on a spiritual note. I don't know where you all are, but I have to share this because this is what turned me around, turned my perspective on how I was going to live with no job. And I made a decision to give my life to Jesus Christ. That was the game changer. My circumstance did not change immediately, But every day I saw God do something in my life that brought me right back to where I was financially, but not in the way I expected. And so that was big for me. And so I share that with you. I don't know where you all in your job search. I lost my job as a television news anchor at the age of 35. I will be 73 this year. And what I came to the conclusion was, oh, by the way, my agent died too. He was searching for a new anchor job for me somewhere in the United States of America, and he died. And so I realized the best agent I had was the Lord. I said, okay, I'm watching to see what you're going to do. I changed my perspective. I didn't know if I'd ever get another anchor job, but what I did do and what I did say to myself, because the most important conversation you have every day is the one you have with yourself, I am self-employed. So if you all are interested in working with me on this project, I would just say to you, think of yourself as self-employed for 2 months. Okay. And we have fun doing it. You meet a lot of really interesting business owners. Do you get where I'm going with this?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what opportunity is awaiting you. You don't know to whom you will speak, and they will say, oh, well, you're very interesting, because you have to build relationships with folks to, let them know they really should give you an interview. Okay. So the study starts June 1st. We end August 15th. As soon as I turn in everything to the client, they review it. I invoice them. They pay me within 10 days. And the way I pay folks is I pay them through Zelle, or I will send you a paper check because I don't do Cash App and all those other things through my business. Okay. So if you are interested, let me put my information in the chat.
I beat you to it.
Oh,
Already.
you did? Okay,
Yep.
great. Great. So anyway, I'll be praying for you all because I know how devastating it is. And especially at this age, I said, I'm still Anchor the News. I can do all that stuff. But there is a perception that we want somebody 25. I ain't never going to be 25 again. Thank you, Lord. Okay. So I want you all to be encouraged today. There is work out there. You may have to change your mindset. And I know she's giving you what you need. But please be encouraged. Do not think that this is the end. You may have gone months, maybe. I had one girlfriend, she was out of work for 7 years. And then all of a sudden she became the EVP for a nonprofit organization. And she has worked with me over the years. So I get these studies. I'm always looking for folks who say, yeah, I can do this. I want to do this. It's not something you have to sit and do all day long. But at the end of every week, I have to submit a report to let the client know what we have accomplished. And my project manager, who is in Germany, by the way, she was working in the financial district in New York and decided she wanted to go to Germany to live. So she will be project managing from Germany. So that tells you you can be anywhere and there is work to be had. And I have embraced the virtual world. I love it. And so it has worked well for me. Please be encouraged. I don't know where you are in your thinking today or how you got up out of the bed this morning, but I got up looking with great anticipation of what this day is going to hold. And now I get a chance to meet all of you.
Thank you, Doris. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Shira.
very much. And by the way, I put your email address in the chat, but should I also put your cell phone or another phone number in?
You can put my cell phone.
Okay, we'll do.
Yeah. If you all would text me before you call me, because I get a lot of robocalls, people trying to scam me. So just text me and say I'm reaching out.
All right, wonderful. Well, I'm putting that in the
Okay.
chat right
Thank you
now.
so
Thank
much,
you,
Shira.
Doris.
This was an answer. See, even yesterday, I had to get a new project manager on the turn of a dime. And I said, I've got to create a new team. And then Shira and I talk. I look at opportunities, how they pop up. It's exciting.
And I said, hey, we've got a group this morning. Come on
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
That was
Thanks a
all very
lot.
impromptu. Thank you, Doris. Have a blessed day.
Oh, and by the way, If you get more interviews than anybody else, I give another $250 bonus. Okay?
No.
All right.
Thanks
Take
so
care,
much.
everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So Vern, I know what you're thinking because I know what you're about to say. The power of human connection.
Yeah.
Vern is
Yeah.
always talking about this. Vern has his own company called Context Count, and it's all about connections. And we're always talking on this call about moments just like that, right? Where you know somebody, reach somebody, all of a sudden there's this impromptu thing, and then boom, here we go. Doris and I have known each other for many, many years, and literally I just got this call from her yesterday out of the blue, late in the day. She's like, "Hey, I got this thing," and we talked. And said, she says, "Do you know of anybody?" I'm like, "Do I know of anybody? Come on the call tomorrow." So,
Shira, you know, nobody does it like you.
oh, bless you.
I've known you
Well,
for quite a while, and I have not even met anybody as resourceful
Oh,
as you. And this is just a divine connection.
well, bless you
I
all.
woke up without any hope.
Oh,
And, you know, I've been trying to come on this call for a very long time. But today, there was something in me that told me you
get
have,
on the call.
and I am here, and I'm so glad I made it.
Good,
I'm definitely going to be part of the group. Thank you.
good. You're welcome, Lydia.
well,
Bless
let me just jump in here because, and I don't, Diane and I wanted to share a story with the group today, but I wanted, since we've got so many new people, you know, I want to make sure we answer the questions. But Diane and I actually had a power of connection type of situation to share with the group. And Lydia, what Lydia just said, she made a choice today to join, right? You made a choice. And we talk about choice points all the time at Context Count. You know, you have a choice to pick up the phone and call somebody, or you have a choice to, or not, you know, pick up the phone and call somebody, or make a choice not to. But in the job search, the more choice points you have and the more people you can talk to, the better off you're going to be. So,
Well, so to that point, see, here we go. We're gonna talk about the Lord here for just a minute. So to pick up on what Doris was saying, so there's a
I apologize, Shira.
Sorry.
Pen name Doris McMillan.
McMillan, yeah,
Okay.
McMillon.
Okay, I was a little bit late, so I didn't get her name.
Oh, I apologize. Yes, I know you. Yeah, you came right as she was talking. Yeah.
Thank you.
So her information's in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
So if it's okay, I just want to take liberty. I do this every once in a while. So I have a devotional that I read every morning, and it's called My Utmost for His Highest. It's a very old devotional. And this morning, it talked about exactly what we're talking about right now. So here we go, right? Another moment. So it's called, the devotional is called Take the Initiative. And it's references 2 Peter 1:5, and the phrase is add to your faith virtue. And what it says is add, the word add, means that we have to do something. We are in danger of forgetting that we cannot do what God does and that God will not do what we can do. We cannot save or sanctify ourselves. God does that. But God will not give us good habits or character, and He will not force us to walk correctly before Him. We have to do that all ourselves. We must work out or own salvation, which God worked in us. Philippians 2:12. Add means that we must get into the habit of doing things. And in the initial stages, that is difficult. To take the initiative is to make a beginning, to instruct yourself in the way you must go. Beware of the tendency to ask the way when you know it perfectly well. Take the initiative. Stop hesitating. Take the first step. Be determined to act immediately in faith on what God says to you, Lydia, when He speaks, and never reconsider or change your initial decisions. If you hesitate when God tells you to do something, you're being careless, spurning the grace in which you stand. Take the initiative yourself, make a decision of your will right now, and make it impossible to go back. Burn your bridges behind you and say, I will write that letter, or I will pay that debt, and then do it. And I will get on HMM. Make it irrevocable. We have to get into the habit of carefully listening to God about everything, forming the habit of finding out what He says and heeding it. If when a crisis comes, we instinctively turn to God, we will know that the habit has been formed in us. We have to take the initiative where we are, not where we have not yet been. So I pray that that blesses you. All right, great. We've had church. All right. So getting back to yes.
Sharon, I just wanted to, based on that and where we're at and what we're talking about, I don't know if she'll get back on the call again, but I know many of you all know Enid May Jones, who
Yes. And
actually introduced me.
she just landed.
She just landed a
Yeah.
job, so
Yes.
I wasn't sure if she told you I had a chance yet, but she
Thank
I
you.
told her
Yeah.
that next time I got on the call, I will let
Thank
everybody
you.
know
Yeah, I
that
saw
she
that on
landed the job.
LinkedIn. It's very exciting. She's going to be the executive director for a small healthcare association, and she's working
Yes.
for an association management company. So it's very, very
And Enid and I have known each other for over 20 years. And just to let everybody know, because it goes right with that devotional, it took her 2 years to land this job.
yeah.
And I've been, coaching her and everything over the last 2 years. And this is her first love. This is what she wanted. This is the job she
Exactly. That
really
was been
wanted.
her
And then she
goal.
almost changed courses
Mhm.
and she went for this one again and got it. So there's hope, everybody.
Amen. It's exciting. Thank you for sharing that, Tanji. All righty. So right back to Lisa. Does I guess as I mentioned, I don't know of any particular companies that do reputation management. Does anybody here know that? I think there were a couple people on the call who came after Lisa mentioned that she went online, did a little search on herself, and found some stuff she didn't like, and was looking for a company, somebody to help her clean up her online profile. Alki, are you? By the way, everybody, say hello to Alki. Alki's our other Hire Moment Mastermind coach and advisor. He's a fellow recruiter. So he's here also to answer questions. Are you familiar, Alki, with anything like that?
I've heard of it. I don't know anyone off the top of my head.
Okay.
I do. I will share what I've
Sheila,
found out.
just quick thing. Sorry, Lisa. This is
That's okay.
answering your question. I have heard about the reputation.com, but there is something also called as Delete Me, which is basically something. But again, the one thing is to remember is that I don't know, like if I delete let's say we delete my information out there, right? But how long it stays deleted is something that we don't know, because these people who collect the personal information of people, the databases, they probably load it back after a certain period of
Agreed.
time.
Yeah,
So
that's
so
been my thought
there is
too.
so your strategy has to be like a two-pronged strategy. One is like you said, that you have to send them requests as to remove my information. That's what Delete Me does it for you basically. And then also try the reputation.com to restore the right information out there. And so that's
Thank you.
just
Yep. Since a lot of you haven't heard of it either, I'll at least share with you what I've discovered over the past week. Basically, what's hopping out there front and center is my age. That's the last thing I need out there right now, right? And one of the hits said I had court or arrest records. Well, I have a security clearance. I don't have any of those records, obviously. So that's not even the truth. But so what I found out is that many of us have probably heard of LifeLock.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different service, but they include a search every quarter to find this same kind of information that Delete Me and the Reputation Defender look for. So there are bigger companies that do it along with protecting your security, and then there are separate companies that just clean up your data for you. That's as far as I've gotten. I have a few names like some of you are throwing out. So I guess I'm just going to have to.
Yeah, and Diane just put in the chat. She talked about the Small Business Development Center, the SBDCs. They're every county, city, there's a lot of them in the country. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. I was unaware. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Also, public relations firms probably have folks that they use, right? Because they're all about reputation. So if there's any PR firms in your world that or anybody you can just sort of search for, they might, might have some info for you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Sure thing.
Thoughts. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know in some of the classes that I've taken, that Reputation Defender seems to be one, at least the company that everybody else is the mark that everybody else is trying to hit. One tactic they use is you can't always delete everything negative that's on you, but nobody looks past the second page. So
I don't know what I don't know what the HR departments do. That's been my concern. How do HR departments even maybe have an aggregator of all of those data?
Probably not. A lot of them are way too busy, frankly, to go and do that kind of deep search. If they're going to do anything at all, maybe they'll go on social media. But people are so swamped these days. I would imagine that if anybody's going to do that, it's going to be a very, very small percentage.
The reason I thought of an aggregator is it's a one step and done. The
Yeah.
aggregator does all that work for you. But you're right, you may well be right in that too. And I spoke to a friend of mine who used to work in HR as well. And I don't know that we talked about that necessarily. And she didn't say they'll stop at the first page, but what she did say was, especially larger companies will have policies against doing that.
Yes.
However, the individual managers
Okay, yeah. So you never know.
still go ahead and do it.
You never know.
So yeah. So
Hopefully it's a very small percentage chance that anyone's going to go do that. Because frankly, a lot of people go on reputation these days and they'll, talk to colleagues and things rather than just go online. But I mean, it's good for you to clean it up, but hopefully it's not going to be that big of a risk.
agreed. And there's some info for everybody else too. So
Well, thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for prompting us.
sure. Thank you.
Dan,
Appreciate
sure,
it.
you're welcome. Dan.
So I have a question.
Oh, actually,
Or-
Carrie,
or something-
Diane, I'm so sorry, Carrie. Diane had her hand up. She's trying to get herself
Okay.
off mute.
Okay, my bad.
That's okay. You're having technical challenges? Oh, there you are.
Sorry about that. I think my computer needs a little bit of coffee this morning. I wanted to just ask a general question. I have a couple of interviews coming up, and one of them, talking about human connection. Vern kind of teased that earlier, and I don't know if I should mention that now, but I just wanted to kind of ask a general question of the group and Alki and Shira and Vern about what you think makes a good interview and what you can do to set yourself up for a good interview. The interview, I have one that's coming up that's a phone interview and the other is virtual.
Well, you have just asked a very, very insightful question that has many, many responses to it. Before I address it, and I know Alki and Vern are going to have much to say as well, I'm going to pop, and this is for everybody, I'm going to pop a link in the chat. This is a page on my website. It has a whole bunch of videos of presentations I've given to job seeker groups, one of which is called Interviews That Land the Offer. And in that list, not only is there the presentation, in that particular case, I also included the deck as a separate link. Okay, so you're welcome to it. It's an hour and a half presentation on this very topic. So between the three of us, we could probably spend the next hour talking about it, but I'm just going to go ahead and give a couple of top of mind tips, but there's so many more. Vern and Alki would welcome your complimentary insights as well. So here's something that I'll share with you all. And I think it's very important to really kind of do this. When you're interviewing, you need to walk a mile in the employer's shoes. This is one of the most important mindsets I think you could ever get out of this, what we're talking about today. As important as it is that you vet the opportunity, and it's very important that you vet the opportunity for yourself, make sure it's a good fit for you, the role, the culture, the comp, the okay, all of that. Absolutely, period. Yes. And to do well in the interview, you need to walk a mile in their shoes. Employers, and I say this all the time, employers are risk averse. Any of you been a hiring manager? You know what I'm talking about, okay? Risk averse. They want the been there, done that, have 5 t-shirts, side of coleslaw, you know what I mean, right? So what they're doing in their interviewing from the very first moment they reach out to you all the way until the offer letter is signed is they're trying to mitigate their risk every step of the way. Everything from, can you do the job? Can you do the job in the way we need you to do the job? Do you have the specific niche skills that we need? Are you the right personality culture fit? The right compensation? Are you going to be a fit with the manager? Or is this going to be the right career step for you? All of these things, underqualified, overqualified, all of it. So from a mindset perspective, your job is to prepare yourself to overcome every objection and to anticipate objections and to mitigate risk. And how do you do that? Well, there's several ways. So first of all, really, really, really read that job announcement. Now, why did I just give you 3 reallys? Because most job seekers don't, right? Most job seekers will go through that job description, go whoosh, 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 whoosh. By the way, it's the same way that recruiters read resumes. Most people are reading each other's documents like in 2.2 seconds. I think it's like recruiters take about 2 seconds. You might take about 30 seconds to read the job. But honestly, most people do not spend the time. Why? Once you've read one resume, you've read them all. Once you've read your one job description, you've read them all. They all kind of start to look the same, but they're not. You took the time to write the resume. They took the time to write the job description. There's some important language in there that you need to focus on. So when you're reading that job description, I want to call attention to certain areas. So first of all, Diane, you want to look at the summary or whatever they call their summary section. They're actually talking about the role, and they're not just trying to use made up language, right? They're saying something in there. They're probably saying something about why this role is open, what the outcomes of the role are, what they're hoping to achieve by having somebody in this role. Really read it and analyze it and say to yourself, am I that person? Can I do this? Have I done it? Am I interested in doing this? Do I have ideas about how to do this? Get into that summary. Get into the responsibilities. Now, the responsibility section, there's usually like, 15, 20 bullets, right? No, forget the other duties as assigned, right? In fact, I wouldn't really pay too much attention to the last, 3 or 4 bullets on that list, but pay very much attention to the first 3, 4, 5 bullets on that list because it's top of mind for them. They wrote those 3, 4 first several bullets because that's what they consider to be the most important elements of the role, especially the first one. Read it, analyze it, understand it. Go through all of those bullets. Look at your background. And this is what I would do. You can do this in a very linear way. Copy and paste that job, those bullets, right, in a doc. And then look at your background and say, have I been there? Have I done that? Have I been there? Have I done that? If not, do I have exposure to it? Do I have familiarity with it? Do I have no understanding of it whatsoever? Is that going to be a big deal? Will they be open to a learning curve in that area? So you can not only prepare accomplishment stories to demonstrate your experience with all of those different bullets, but you can have some questions as well around, to what extent are they going to be needing you to lean into bullets 1, 3, and 5, right? The extent to which they're going to need you to, engage with other stakeholders. What kind of successes are they looking for in the first 12 months? Really, get into their business challenges, understand what's keeping them up. Why is this job even open? I don't just mean about the incumbent, because they usually won't tell you about the incumbent. I'm talking about, where are they going in the future? Why do they have this job open? They're not hiring for their health. They're spending a lot of money. They're not just spending your salary, by the way. They have to tack on 30 to 40% on top of your salary for benefits and taxes and all these other things, right? It's very, very expensive to hire a full-time person. Therefore, your job is to show them how you can advance their business goals, even if it's the government, whatever goals they have, right? That's your job. And so your ability to come up with accomplishment stories, and notice I said accomplishment stories, not generic stories, not, oh, generally speaking, I've done blah, blah, blah. I'm talking once upon a time in a land far, far away. I mean, using a formula, people use SAR, STAR, PAR, CAR, CAB, whatever, situation, action, results, situation, task, action, results, the same thing, it's a story. Frame it up. What was the backstory? It's a real story, right? It really happened. They need you to tell a real story. What were the actions you took and what were the results? I could keep on going on all this stuff, but I'm hoping that's at least a prompter to make sure that you're aligning your background, what you've done, and demonstrate how you can do in the past what they're hoping for you to do in the future. So I'm going to just leave it at that. Alki or Vern, do you want to jump in?
I'll just highlight some of the things you said. Certainly preparation, be prepared with your stories. Make sure your stories are lining up with what you're reading in the job description. As Shira said, don't be afraid to ask questions. That makes it more of a conversation. So many interviewees just let it's a one-way street. They're asking questions, you answer. They ask questions, you answer. If you can get into, asking them a follow-up question, tell me more about that before, and I'd like to learn a little bit more about what you're asking, whatever the question is that kind of breaks it up. And then, you should walk away from that interview knowing, what does success look like in this job? And how do I feel about my abilities to, really be successful in this job? And let them know that also. At the end of the interview, if it's been a good interview, the last thing you should, be talking about was, this is, really excited, really, interested in this position. And I believe, based on our interview, I could really be successful in this particular role. Here are the 2 or 3 following things that really, relate to what they're looking for. So I know Elke could add something to this probably too.
Yeah, this is a week-long seminar. That hour and a half, I'm sure, is jam-packed, that Shira mentioned on her site. For everybody on the call, go there and take a look at that, because there's more there than we can say here. But Shira was talking a lot about preparation. Interviews are a lot of homework, a lot of preparation. It's demonstration of you being prepared, as she mentioned, with your accomplishments, your stories, to demonstrate to them that you know the job, you know their culture, you know the industry, you know the arena. Everything Vern said is true as well. Interviews are also improvisation, which is, being human. You've worked. If you've ever been a hiring manager, you've sat across the other side of the table, as Shira said. You've also been in meetings as an employee. Interviews can be like a meeting. So a lot of homework, a lot of preparation. And then I won't go deep here, but as Shira was talking, I was just thinking, as recruiters, when we work with hiring managers, when they first come to us and say, hey, I have a vacancy, can you help me fill it? Well, we take them through an interview and an intake to ask them all kinds of questions. Who are you looking for? Who are you not looking for? What kind of background are you looking for? What kind of education? What kind of skill set? What kind of accomplishments? And so I was just thinking, that's what we take to prep candidates for their interview. We do a deep dive with the hiring manager to pinpoint exactly what it is they're looking for. And a lot of candidates, sometimes I blame the hiring managers because they don't allow time in the interview for you to ask questions. But I think, and the first part Shira said was true. First, you have to fit the job and match the job and match what they're looking for. If you've done that and you have that, the ball's kind of in your court to some degree, because at that point, once you demonstrate who you are and what you've done and that you're qualified for the role, the rest of it is about fit and showing them, wow, not only, are they qualified, but I like those questions. They're interested in what we're interested in. And she said that in the beginning, walk a mile in their shoes. This isn't just about you getting a job. This is what we've talked a lot about on this call too. How can you help them? That's what this interview is. It's an opportunity for them to walk away salivating, saying, wow, she can solve 8 of our 10 problems that we have right now. This is why we posted this position. She has everything we're looking for and more. And that's probably what I'll stick with right now. Is it's an opportunity for you to ask them questions like, hey, why is this job open? How long has it been open? What are you looking for in the next person? What do you expect in the first 90 days, 6 months for the person who comes in? What are you not looking for this person to do? What are the top 5, priorities as soon as I step in this role? So it's all about great questions, which most employers love as well. So be prepared. I always tell candidates, prepare at least 2 to 3 really good questions, and not questions you can find on the internet on their website, but questions that really hit to the heart of that make them think.
So, to follow up on that, Alki, so there's this, you mentioned about, hopefully they make time for questions. A lot of interviewers, particularly hiring managers, are not experienced interviewers. In fact, those of you on this call might have interviewed people, right? Maybe you weren't an experienced interviewer. It's not something that and even recruiters, right? Like people, nobody gets trained in these things, right? We just sort of have to figure it out. And as a result, a lot of folks may not make the time or even know how to structure the interview for enough time to leave for the interview, for the questions. Therefore, I want to give you a concept, a metaphor, I guess. Think of your interview like a game of tennis rather than a game of racquetball. A game of racquetball is, they ask the cue, you A. They cue, you A, right? They just sort of bounce the question right off of you. But a game of tennis is QA, 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 QA. They bounce it to you. You answer the question. You mentally put a semicolon at the end of your response, bounce another cue back to them. That's a conversation. You can do that. Promise you can do it. Most employers don't even think about it You don't even think about it. Why? Because you're sitting there with your hands in your lap like a good interviewee, right? Here I am. Lay it on me, throw your questions, and you're just waiting for them to take the lead and say, okay, now it's the time for you to ask questions. It's a relationship. People don't realize that. Let them start. That's fine. They're opening, they're the interviewer. That's fine. Let them open up the conversation. But at some point, after you're answering their questions, you should be in a position confident enough to say, hey, Mr. Employer, Ms. Employer, that was a really great question. It leads me to ask a follow-up. Would that be okay? And they're like, okay, sure. Then go back and forth. Now, where this doesn't work as well is if you're in a panel interview, particularly with a large company or the government. Okay. So some of those organizations will have these very formalized, strict processes, right? They go around the room and everybody asks their one question and they're very sort of stoic. And they're doing that in a very standardized way, not because they're stoic people, but because HR has told them you need to be fair and equitable and everybody gets this. It's very robotic. Okay. So what I just shared doesn't really work as well with that. You can try, may or may not work. But with the more informal kinds of interviews that most of us are used to, it should work if you just sort of prompt them back with another question and kind of engage them in a conversation. Besides which, it shows that you're proactive and that you're a critical thinker, right? That you're not just sort of robotically answering their questions, but you're thinking about the opportunity and you're listening to them. Listen to the question, get underneath the question. Why are they asking that question? You say to yourself, right? Be thinking about like what's a thoughtful question you could ask, right? To show them that you care, that you're a critical thinker.
One other thing I was going to say, I was just going to share that I've found that interviewers can be nervous or feel unprepared or just got the resume 2 seconds before the interview.
Oh yeah.
So, I find that if I can do something in the interview when I share a story that has some sort of humor in it or something funny that can make them laugh and lighten the mood a little bit to make them feel a little bit more comfortable, I know it certainly puts me at ease. I just feel like that helps me along a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's,
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Very helpful.
Sure. All right, Andrew, you've had your hand up.
My question is about references. I was part of the group that did not have a good reputation at the company. And what can they say to a future employer about that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. All right, so employers are kind of risk averse on all sides, including the employer that you just left. So I'm making up a statistic here, but I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, whoever you left, the employer you left, they don't want to get sued. So they are going to try to be pretty circumspect in how they respond to reference questions. First of all, they might just verify employment. A lot of companies do that these days because they're just incredibly risk averse. Or if somebody does get on a call, they might just sort of say sort of mild things. So generally speaking, you shouldn't have that much of an issue. But again, there's no guarantees. I don't know what the person's going to say. If there's any way, I know it's hard when the relationship isn't great with it you left, but if you can find out what they will say or talk with them in advance about what they're going to say, that can be helpful as well. Or if you can put on a reference to somebody who you maybe had a better relationship with, that can be helpful. There's no perfect answer that I can give you, Andrew, because this is a common question, but I can just share with you, may not be as bad as you think. But again, whatever you can do to mitigate that around, talking to folks or again, getting other folks to, or, where you had a good relationship, that could be a little bit helpful. Alki or Vern?
Yeah, not much else to say there, Shira. I mean, again, hopefully most companies, as Shira said, they don't want to share that information because it could come back to, bite them. There could be legal action against them for defamation against you or whatever the issue is.
Yeah.
All
right. Hope that helps, Andrew.
I would also say, Christine, that, check what you signed when you left. So
around whether or not they are allowed to provide a reference.
If you signed like separation agreement or if you just left, but if there's anything that when you left, you signed something, read the fine print, because that will also give you guidance on what they can say and not say.
Got it. Thank you. All right, Carrie.
So I had a networking call this week, and one based on reconnected with a friend on LinkedIn, and asked him to do a recommendation. Offered to write it for him because I realized he was busy, but he said, "No, I'll write it," and quickly got something back. And I'd offered to do the same for him, so I was doing a recommendation for him, and I was just drawing a blank on getting good material for him. So I went to Chat GPT to get ideas, and then I realized how he wrote my recommendation.
He wrote it on ChatGPT.
Entirely because I got my recommendation back for him.
That's crazy.
So I'm curious on ways. One, is everybody's antennas up? Now, when they see that review, I went back and rewrote a lot of what he wrote.
Yeah.
To make it a little less AI-ish.
Yeah.
But how damaging is it to have an AI-generated recommendation?
I want to address that at a larger level, Carrie, because I think now that people are starting to get into the swing of using this, there is a tone. I think we've all seen it when we see a chat GPT generated anything, email, whatever. I just got one recently. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy just wrote me ChatGPT. I could totally tell, right? There's a tone. I think we all need to start to be sensitive to that when we write anything to anybody, because it's going to sound like AI. Okay. And I think more and more of us are going to start to get hip, like, oh, they didn't write that. Whether that's your resume, your cover letter, your email to the employer, to anybody, whatever, just anything. So I just want to caution us all to not just go, oh, it's ChatGPT. How fun is this? People are going to start to, right, to think exactly like you're thinking. We're at that state, that tipping point now, I think, in our AI usage. So let me just say that in general. Look, I don't know, right? Because I think that depending upon how it's written, not everybody will be hip to it. But I guess more to the point is, look, you can't control what other people write, but you can control what you write. So I would recommend when you are doing it for someone else, just be authentic. I realize that we all go to, people go to ChatGPT now because they're like, well, maybe it's going to say it in a better way. But sometimes from the heart is actually the best way. So I would just really think about, who was this person to you and what did you really appreciate about them? And just kind of write down some of their strengths and sort of craft a little narrative around it. I think, again, authenticity goes much farther than sounding, beautiful and slick. That would be my opinion on that.
Yeah, if you ChatGPT will never, I don't ever be able to capture some of the experiences people have with their former bosses or with their employees. And if you look at recommendations where, the person said, Shira spent, so many hours with me, helping me do this and do this and do this. ChatGPT will never be able to figure that out. At least I don't think so. When the example of the person's competence or how skilled they were was a specific example of a specific point in time. So I'm just thinking of, some of the recommendations that people wrote for me and I'm just saying, how could ChatGPT ever capture that? I just don't think they could. And those are more powerful recommendations in my mind to anybody reading it.
My brain goes in a lot of directions, and I'm definitely not anti-intelligence. And sometimes I've had to watch myself to not be too anti-AI and listening to these answers and even that question. It reminds me, yeah, I'm far from anti-AI. it's intelligence. We all use intelligence, and, the world and technology are coming along. So I love tools. The more tools we have, you have it, within your reach, the better. Vern hit on it. Shira just used a word that encapsulates, what I will say as a recruiter: authenticity. Number one recommendation that you got at the end of the day, a human did the prompt, got the recommendation. You still have the choice. I'm not using that. You have the choice whether or not you want to use it or not, or go back and go, hey, can you give me, I appreciate it, but can you give me something a little bit more personal? So we're still in control. We use these tools, but we're still in control of what's out there about us and what we, input and present of ourselves. The second thing that I'll say is, every company is different, every recruiter is different, every hiring manager is different. But 13 years for me as a recruiter, jobs, recommendations, opportunities, in my world, they're still very, very personal. It's very, very one-on-one. It's very authentic. Hey, what do you think about Bob? We worked with them last year. That's a personal example. That's not, just something that's made up. That's a very personal example. Shira was talking about how some interviews are cookie cutter questions. Still, at the end of the day, because I've been on these calls, Vern's been on these calls, Shira's been on these calls, or sat in on these meetings, when the VPs and leadership come together and compare candidates, at least 90%, 95, 98%, that final decision comes down to personal thoughts, comparisons, human voice, human words. And so great to use the tools, everybody use the tools, but I'm still preaching, make sure you do a final edit of everything and you put out what you want out there. And on our side, as recruiters and the people making the decisions and doing the hiring, we're looking at 1,000 candidates and 1,000 resumes. If they all start to look the same and sound the same, we can't hire the same. We're looking for different. We're looking for the exception. We're looking for that person who's going to be on our team that we're going to work with and ask questions to and have personality with and all those things. So,
yeah, I was just on a real anecdotal note. I just completed a search this past week and came down to 2 candidates. And while both were qualified and everything, and they both had actually great reputations, at the end of the day, they were really listening for the reputation of these people in their own community, because they came from the community. And in fact, to such an extent, I didn't even have to check references, because the references were already done. People were calling in to the CEO about these candidates. And so there was a reputational sort of preparation there that the CEO was looking for. And so, I'm not saying that happens all the time in this, but this was a government relations lobbying search, and that happens actually more in that community, I think, than others. But even so, to the extent that you can have folks to really recommend you, not just on LinkedIn, but I'm talking about in the interview process. It's not a bad idea to have somebody, if somebody knows the hiring manager, not just randomly, but if they know them, to actually have a prompt to just reach out randomly and say, hey, hiring manager, I noticed that Lydia was in contention for the job, and just wanted to put in a good word, and oh wow, thanks for letting me know, kind of thing. So anybody who knows something, or somebody who knows the hiring, right? Anything like that can be very, very helpful, because again, if they're hiring a person, not a resume, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to work with them, right? They're joining, they're inviting you into the family for a long time. They want to make sure that you're going to be a good family member, and you for them too. I mean, for them, for you too. That's so for on your side, to the extent that you can find out, reputationally about the organization, the culture, the hiring manager. Not that anything's perfect, right? People are people, but it's, good to think about those things, right? On both sides.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Lisa.
Hi. I was recently given an assignment by a company that I was interviewing with to write up some curriculum plans. I'm an instructional designer, tech trainer. And it specifically said, don't use AI. It was interesting, but I used it anyway. But I'm used to writing, so I just grabbed ideas from it. I rewrote it. I wrote my own stuff. But I was wondering, somebody said something about the content needs to be your own,
right?
And so I like the idea of being able to describe different things for that person who's asking for maybe a reference or whatever. But not everybody is a writer.
Right.
And
I know
so
that's
it
why,
seems to
right.
me
Yeah.
like you could use ChatGPT, but then rewrite it in your own words. I realize to help with that grammar stuff a bit, maybe. But I do feel like you need to make it your own.
Not only that, I will tell you that as I've listened to AI experts, right? Because everybody's talking about it now, right? What the phrase that people are using in the AI world is you need a human in the mix or a human in the loop. So to your point, Lisa, like that's actually best practice in general whenever anybody is using AI for anything, not just generative AI for writing, but just AI for anything. You need a human in the mix, okay? All it's doing is prompting you. It's giving you some ideas. I'll give you an example. So I know most of us, if we use Microsoft Word, right? There's that autofill. You start to write the sentence and it starts to fit. Well, of course, sometimes it's right and sometimes it's not, obviously, right? You have to say, no, I didn't mean to say blah, blah, blah. But that's my point. Or when you're doing PowerPoint, if anybody does presentations, there's that on the side, it says, design animation. You can prompt it, take your slide, click that button, and it'll come up with, graphic ideas for you. Most of them are completely irrelevant, but they're just ideas. They're just prompters. You still have to think about what do you want to say? How do you want to frame it? What graphics do you want to use? That kind of thing, right? So I hopefully as we continue to have this AI discussion, meaning in the world, we're all going to kind of level out and remember it's not a panacea. It's just a tool. And we all have to be very thoughtful in how we engage in it.
Yeah.
Willie?
I was approached earlier this week by a firm that I had no connection with whatsoever. Turns out that they're a recruiter, and investigating their website, it appeared to me that their sample resumes were all AI driven. And they're proposing to take my resume and work it over using AI. That takes out a lot of the stuff that I've done that I know intimately and creates a more generic form of it. And the other part of that was that they offer a financial investment service for guiding you through how to invest your saved wealth. And this is all supposedly at no cost to me. And my alarms are going off right and left here. What's your sense on that?
All right, I'll give my I know, yeah, right. I'll give my 2 cents, like others can chime in. Yeah, I'd have alarm bells too. Look, there's nothing overtly wrong with what they're suggesting, but it's a little different. First of all, I would not have anybody rewrite your resume in AI. In fact, let me just say that as a blanket statement for everybody on this call. Anybody who's thinking of doing that, I want you to really understand something here, okay? AI will never understand your accomplishment stories. They don't know you. AI is a machine, doesn't know you. It can come up with generic statements about job duties, but your resume is not about job duties. It's supposed to be about accomplishments. Only you know your accomplishments. Now, could it rewrite it in a prettier way? Sure. But it's not going to come up. It's not going to generate your stories. That's almost like Captain Obvious for me to say that, but I think we all need to be like shaken up a little bit. You can't really have it write your resume. It's your stories. So to that point, Willie, I don't know. Like when they rewrite it in AI, are they going to take your stories and just pretty it up and just make nicer language and put it in a nicer format? That could be okay. But if it's going to change your whole resume to something generic, obviously not. As far as the financial thing goes, the only thing that I can think of, if this is what they're even talking about, maybe they've partnered with a Morgan Stanley kind of a wealth management company who is going to come in and, you know, provide you some free financial advice, which those companies do. And actually it would be I'd be very curious because it would be a very interesting business model in that those wealth management firms, you know, they don't get, I mean, they do get paid by you, I guess, a little bit, but it's not really a fee-based thing in the classic sense. A lot of those people will do lunch and learns and, you know, they'll teach people financial investment tips and those kinds of things, which is very, very normal. And frankly, those companies like to work with job candidates because they're transferring over their 401k plan and like that. So it's possible that that's what they're doing. They maybe have an affinity relationship with a company like that who can come in and say, hey, Willie, here's some financial advice. Oh, by the way, when you're transferring over your 401k, think of us. That would actually be fine. And that would be actually a very unique business model. I have no problem with that if that's what they're doing. I don't know. So you could investigate them and see. But absolutely, I'd have your guard up a little bit just to make sure, because it's just those two things are a little unusual. Werner Alke?
No, I wouldn't get in anything there, Shara.
Okay.
I won't touch the financial side. Shara just did. I will reiterate, and it's your choice. It's totally up to you. I personally would not trust any AI to write my resume. That's my life. That's your life. That's your career story. I wouldn't trust it. Or if they did, it's your job to come behind and look over that and approve what goes out. So either way, you're still in charge, but I would not trust them to write that. Chances are the version they spit out, you're going to have to go back and refill in the gaps anyway. Plus, the question is, are you going to risk career opportunity? Are you going to risk career opportunity in somebody else's hands or AI's hands?
Right.
Shira, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
First of all, I'm looking for a job for about 7 months now, and my background is in IT consulting. I'm a service delivery manager. My question is, I also feel that I think my challenge probably is my age, is what I feel. Is one of the ageism which we all think that there's no discrimination, but I do think there is discrimination. So having said that, my question is, are there organizations? I used to know that there used to be organizations that find you a job and then charge you a finder fee kind of thing. So
right.
Is that in this market?
It's interesting you said that, because I'm actually about to refer you somebody who just decided to add that to his business model. Well, let me give you the general concept. So in general, no. Okay. Most recruiters do not charge candidates a finder's fee. They charge the employer. That's the traditional search model. Okay. So I'm going to say 99.7 times out of 100. No, that is not the model. However, occasionally I've heard of this happening, and I've always been a little bit circumspect, with one exception. And I'm going to mention somebody that Vern, you know very well, and that's Hector Velez. So it turns out Hector has just changed his business model. He's now about to offer this. So here in the DC area, Vern and I have a longtime trusted colleague. His name is Hector Velez. He has been a recruiter for 30 years. Turns out we just found out that he and I started recruiting within 2 months of each other in 1994. And I just had a networking coffee with him, and he's just launched his own business, his own practice. He used to work for firms. Anyway, he's going to be literally offering what you're talking about, Srini.
Okay.
He is, he's going to, because he has such a wide network. I mean, he's unbelievably connected in this area, and including in the IT world, you should know. And so he's going to have part of his model is going to be, hey, I'll do XYZ for you and help, try to get you placed, and then some sort of fee once you land, like 30, 45 days or whatever after that. So I'm going to go ahead and put his information in the chat. Just, you never know. And please feel free to use my name.
Sure.
And, but yes, but had I not just had, literally, it was like last week. Actually his name is Hector, sorry, Velez. There it is. I would actually not have been able to answer that question, but I happen to know the one person. So, but Alki, you know, in your world, you know, I know you've been playing with, you know, in the recruiting world for a long time now. Have you heard of other folks, reputable folks who are doing the finder's fee?
It's funny you said reputable.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, kind of. All right.
As Shira said, it's general practice is we're like real estate agents, but different in the sense of, you know, our percentage comes from the employer. However, it's funny, I haven't talked to Hector in a while, but I don't know how he's doing his, but I actually have definitely heard of a lot of people who, you know, they will do your LinkedIn page, do your resume, and they're offering certain services as a package. And then, you know, it's almost like you become one of their clients. In our world, typically the employer is the client. But, you know, a lot of us who coach and do things with you all as job seekers, you're a client in a sense. But yeah, there's a few people who offer certain things, and that's part of the package. I have heard of a few people who are like, hey, if I place you, you know, yeah, you owe me a fee. But as Shira said, traditionally, we don't charge the candidate that fee usually.
Yeah, that's a little unusual. And just so you know that too, on not forgetting about anything about the fee, just, you know, so you're aware, I get this question periodically about working with headhunters. Okay. Right. So just for the record, 99.7 times out of 100, the recruiter works for the employer. The client is the employer, not the candidate. Okay.
Yeah.
So candidates don't work with, and I know I'm guessing you probably know this, but just for everybody's sake, right? The candidates you don't hire a recruiter or get a recruiter to work for you. If they happen to have a search that's appropriate for you, absolutely, they'll consider you and represent you to the employer, but they're not there trying to find you a job. That's just not the business model. And mostly because job seekers can't afford to work with a recruiter, right? The business model has to be on the employer side. They're the ones who can afford it. It's just the business of it. And so it's a free service, you know, for you, again, if they happen to have the right opportunity. I just want to let everybody know that for the record.
Yeah. And real quick to add to my background, I worked in the same company. It's a big IT consulting company for 28 years, and this is the first time I'm looking for a job. So I don't know if you have a perspective about is it bad, because when you as a recruiter, for example, Alki, if you're looking at my resume and saying one company 28 years, although there is progression in the career, is that a good thing or a bad thing in your view? If you can answer that.
Well, I'll chime in. I worked for one company for 25 years and found another job. So I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm just thinking from a recruiter's
wouldn't.
perspective, is that considered? I don't know. And I realize when I ask the question that, you know, everyone's different, everyone's thought process may be different and their needs may be different. So, but again, it's like, because I'm trying to, in my mind, figure out what are the impediments that are preventing me from getting the job when I seemingly, I'm in the industry, which is looking for people and I have the skill sets and still not able to find it. And then again, like I said, my company is like a 90,000 people. It's a global organization named CGI. So I would think that there should be jobs out there that I should be getting calls for. So.
Shira will probably say it. I'll really quick. And I think Vern said it, you said it yourself. Everybody's different. I think a general rule of thumb, I know I've heard Shira say it too, general rule of thumb, I tell candidates, you know, you don't need to show more than 12 to 15 years on your resume. Some people say, you know, 20 is okay, but it's just the world we're living in now. I tend to believe that there's more age discrimination happening now. And with the generations that we have at work and the younger generations and all those types of things, that I tend to push candidates to say, oh, yeah, don't show them that much. You know, they'll get the idea, you know, if you show them 12 to 15 or depending on the way your resume is written with your experience, they'll get the idea. But there are a lot of employers and managers who are like the number 28. They're like 28. And that's what does it. But Shira can probably speak to that.
Yeah, I usually go for about 20 years. But again, like Alki said, I mean,
Yeah.
Definitely not less than 10, but even 10 for somebody who's seasoned, sometimes 10 is too late, frankly, for folks with where you want to present a substantive career profile, particularly if you're going for something a little higher level, a little more in the senior level. If you're going for a senior level role and you only put down 10 years on your resume, again, that makes you look almost too junior, frankly. So you're going to need a little bit of substance. And so I would say about 20 years is more or less, okay? You could put down prior experience underneath that and say company title, no dates. That again indicates you've been working for more than 20 years. If you really, really, really need to put those companies down because you have some experience that you really feel like you want to showcase because it was very notable, but you really don't have to do that. Again, 20 should be just fine.
Yeah, I have done that actually in LinkedIn. I've removed where it shows the year when you passed out your graduation, for example, when I passed out. So I just removed all this details now. I've been learning and making changes. Anyway, I do appreciate all the perspectives and the thought process out here. Thank you so much.
And I was looking at the time here. Normally I can just kind of keep on going. I actually have a personal commitment that I need to make. And so what I'd like to, so we'll go ahead and just wrap up the call today. For those of you who are new to the call, for anybody who wants to stay on after I've officially closed down, I do offer a short prayer call. So I'll be staying on for that for just a few minutes to encourage you guys. And otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing you all and any other colleagues you want to bring, right? The more the merrier. We've got a big Zoom room here. We're meeting now every other Friday. Okay. So God bless you guys, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
I just want to say thank you to everybody who contributed on this call. This is powerful. I haven't been in such a informative and educational meeting like this in a long time. This is really, it did me a lot of good. And I'm going to make sure that I take advantage of everything that I heard. I will stay on Shira and see if you can tell me just a little bit about the project because I was a bit late.
Yeah, actually, what best thing to do is just write Doris. Did you see her email in the chat?
Okay.
Yeah, just write her directly, and she'll be able to. She can interview you.
Okay.
She'll give you information. I don't have any more than what she shared.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.